Now to our fourth speaker. Sam Nicholas is the new Revenue Portfolio Manager for the GPT Group, Transport and Place. Sam, do you want to stay in your seat, or do you want to...
I will break the trend and stay in my seat, because what I'm hoping to do is perhaps talk a little bit more from the micro and the individual workplace up to the business case and the concept we've been talking about. I'm here in two capacities. One is representing GPT Group, which, for those who don't know, is a major property owner and owns office towers and shopping centres and industrial buildings. And I'm also on the board of a company via an investment that GPT made called Liquid Space, which is a trading platform for space. So that we're kind of on the disruptor side as well as on the incumbent side of having this property. And obviously, as you can imagine, a private company that owns a lot of large real estate in cities is keenly aware of this trend towards the changing workplace. And particularly when there's this disruption that we've heard about going on, the digitisation of work, which changes the nature of what people do. It changes the nature of where, I guess, companies source certain services. Some of that's about offshoring, but it's not only offshoring, it's the fact that there are small startups that are able to provide services to companies that they used to do in-house and are now getting sourced through innovative new companies. So it turns from 12 desks in a big city tower to 5 desks in a co-working place in Ultimo is actually providing that service now for a company. And that changes the dynamic for a company like ours that provides space. To give you, I guess, an example of the scale, and you mentioned, Martin, the company or the government department moving in with all activity-based working. Speaking to a largest Australian company who was telling us that they have something like 15,000 people working on a free address basis across all of their premises. And that's 15,000 people working out of about 9,000 desks. And the disruption there is enormous. You imagine that's 6,000 desks that someone like Herman Miller or Steelcase or Hayworth didn't sell. And that's a lot of space that's not leased. That's the equivalent of about 30 floors in a big tower. That's a huge disruption to a business model. But it's also a huge opportunity because suddenly that space becomes much more productive. And as Brad was saying, you're getting double use. That's collaborative consumption of the space. That actually creates space for other tenants who could come into that building who wouldn't otherwise be able to be there and could be crowded out. But I think what it also means, though, is, and I saw it on a couple of the Twitter feeds about the fact that companies find it hard to, and managers find it hard to deal with this. And I think all of the companies that have gone through this, the biggest challenge isn't physical, about getting the space right. It is actually about the human capital side of it and the management side of it. How does a manager get used to the concept that I'm managing a team to certain outcomes and I can't look at what they're doing every minute of the day? And sometimes I can't find them, even in my own office, because they're now sitting somewhere in this building. And there's some technologies that should be put in place and that I think people are trying to build to allow them to find them, but it's actually more about trust, and it's about delivering to outcomes. But once that's there and the nexus is broken between this person and this desk, that opens up huge opportunities for some of the things we're talking about, for the opportunities to telework and the like. But I think for us as a company that owns property, one pleasing aspect I think that's there is that we are still social creatures, and that whilst you can work very much remotely and on your own, and the work can be broken down and sent off anywhere in the world maybe, that's not necessarily how people want to work. And there is that desire to have physical interaction, but it's just that it's going to be in a different shape. And so the typical office these days is probably 80% individual desks and 20% meeting rooms and collaborative space. I think in the future it's probably going to be the other way around. It's going to be 20% desk for solitary work and 80% collaboration space, because we'll come into the office in the city to do the collaboration, but we'll retreat to other spaces to do that solitary work that are better suited to it. And one of the things for us as a portfolio owner that we're looking at quite actively is actually the assets like the shopping centres that have often had a bit of office space up the top. It's sometimes leased out to companies that are out there, but it's often not really suitable for a large leasing type of opportunity. Those assets and those places could be great places to have people working. They've got all the amenity of a shopping centre with car parking and food and other entertainment. They've got the connectivity to the transport networks often, and those could be great places that sort of sit in between home and the big office for people to come together. And that's one of the things that we're looking at as part of how this works. The other thing, just to sort of talk a little bit about this concept of liquid space, is that the idea of technology and platform is finding where to work and where's the right place to work at a given time. And I think what was exciting about that for us, the insight of the founder of that business, was that the world and cities don't really need any more office buildings. There is actually plenty of places to work. It's just people have got to find them. And a lot of that's about unlocking capacity, bringing it into a marketplace so that it can be traded, or just having people be aware of it. And some of the venues that are there in the US that are very popular are things like libraries, where they've got great places to work. I've heard them say that the British Library is like the world's greatest and first co-working venue. There's thousands of people every day working in there. But there are libraries with great spaces to work that no one knew about that's coming into the public domain and now is part of our workplace infrastructure. So I think there's a lot of disruption, a lot of change going on. I think property and the ability to physically interact and have collaboration is still really important, because from a microeconomic perspective, there are transaction costs to collaboration, and when you put people together, you reduce those costs. But there's also a real change that can go in where people do that work and how it sits in between home and the office. So that's my intro.